Hello YouTube, it is Cosmos here, bringing you another SMITE content video. Today we'll be talking about the SMITE Update 10.13 patch featuring Bake Kujira, the new character who we will be talking about later in the patch discussion. This patch comes out on Tuesday of next week, which is, date-wise on the calendar, I believe is December 12th, and is the last patch of the year before Worlds. So this is the patch that the Worlds games will be played on, and it's the patch that we'll be sticking with for quite some time. I don't know if there's going to be a bonus patch or anything, but yeah, imagine we'll have this patch for over a month, maybe like a month and a half. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's get into it. The big things that I was expecting to happen were the new god is going to be released, and mage hybrid builds were going to get shafted. And as you will see in this patch, those two things did happen. So maybe I'm a prophet. But before we get into like actual god changes and stuff, look at what happened to Duel. If you guys are Duel players, you'll notice a very interesting change where the top 32 characters of the most played and victorious characters are now auto-banned from Duel. So you guys that have been asking for more bans in Duel, really big. Doesn't affect me at all. I don't really play Duel much anymore, but if I were to play Duel back in the day, this would have been a cool, interesting change. I think it's in like prototype stage still. Don't know if they're going to keep this around. So let me know what you guys think about this. They're just banning like On Her Hades, you know, all those top ADCs, Anubis, Baka, Poseidon, like really annoying characters. You guys, I know a lot of people hate Scotty, Freya, like a lot of things are gone. There are a few weird ones in there like Jing Wei and Danza and Artemis and Zhang Kui, but for the most part, these are like really annoying characters that nobody likes playing against. So, yeah, cool dual change. Conquest got a Harpy base XP camp change because mid laners get really freaking far ahead in the current state of Conquest. Mid camps are on the 1:30 or 1 minute 30-second cooldown, which is freaking insane how fast that is. So slowing down the mid laners a bit. I don't know how crazy that's going to be. I feel like mids are still going to be really far ahead just because those timers are so quick. But moving right on in, straight away, we got big nerfs to the mage solo lane items, starting with our boy Typhon's Fang, -5 power, and conversion of the passive for every percent of lifesteal giving you 2 power. Now you'll, for every percent of power, or every percent of lifesteal you have, you'll only gain 1.5 power. I think Typhon's Fang is still an incredibly strong item. Still gives you 20% pen, and I find it just to be better than Charon's Coin in every scenario other than Assault or Arena. Because those stacks are just not guaranteed, and you're going to get more power from Typhon still. You need, we ran the numbers, I believe you need 6 power to get the same, or 6% lifesteal to get the same amount of power from Typhons as you do on Charon's Coin, which I believe is 70. So Typhon's Fang gives 12% lifesteal base, still better than Charon's Coin, gives 200 mana. Flat, still better than Charon's Coin. Moving on. Unless you're going to get it really stacked, then Charon's Coin is good. Vamp Shroud, -5 power, has the same power as Sands of Time now. 6% lifesteal to 4. Nice little nerf. And then nerfing the sustain from the passive. It's still going to be good sustain. Really impactful mana sustain, but the health is going to be a little bit harder to come by. So really nice, especially for the solo lane meta, trying to get those mages out of there. And then a nerf as well to the upgrade, level 20 Blood-Soaked Shroud. This is definitely a bigger problem than this. So I'm definitely looking more at this to see how impactful that will be. That early game into that, shifting into that mid game is what really makes this item super strong. And it got hit at a lot of points early on. So we'll see how that ends up interacting in the games. Magical Lifesteal, this is the T2 of Pythag / Soul Gem, 8 to 6%. By little power, it's kind of whatever. Pythag's got a sizable hit, 8 to 6%, 5 less power on passive, so 10 power gone, and loses lifesteal. So like the big issue with this build, like Vamp Shroud into Pythags, it was just the sustain was too much, and you got too much survivability, and you got a ton of power for items that were essentially hybrid items with how much health sustain they gave you. It was like pseudo defense, you know, and cooldown, and just too much. It was too much of everything, and so they're cutting back on it. And we're also hitting Breastplate, 55 protections at base, now 50, and lost MP5. So it's kind of like a almost entire revert of what Breastplate was before. Breastplate of Determination got reverted. So Breastplate is kind of like the same as it was before everyone started building it now. And we will see if anyone builds it now anymore. I've already moved on from Breastplate. I'm no longer building that item at all. So we'll see if people continue to build it or if it falls to the wayside. And now we're buffing warriors. So going along with the mage nerfs, now we're doing the warrior buffs to try and get them back into the solo lane. See if that works. We're doing a Berserker Shield buff. This item just doesn't feel great right now. I don't think this is going to make it feel that much better. Don't think it's going to get built that much more. Same with Glad Shield. The damage nerf to Glad Shield has really killed this item. It just doesn't do enough damage. It's just kind of bad. Not gonna lie to you, dude. The shield tree is doomed. Phalanx, it kind of falls into the same category. Building this item just feels really awkward. Like, by the time you have max X on the Phalanx, you're 30% health, and you're basically dead, so... Like, I've just never really liked this item. And I don't think it's going to get much better from these changes, but you basically gave the same buff to all three of these shields. We'll see if they become any better. Maybe I'll test it out. This massive buff to Pestilence, 100 gold off. So I think this is kind of like if Mage Solos somehow do stick around, now you have a good first item to rush that will give you sustain and will be relatively cheap. Same cost as their Pythags. I think, Pythags is 24 now, huh? So Pestilence is actually cheaper, right? I think Pythags got a 100 gold increase, right? Am I trolling? But yeah, Pestilence now a very good counteracting tool to the Pythags, Vamp Shroud, all the lifesteal, blah, 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 blah. Pestilence already a really strong item that you were building if they had a lot of anti-heal. And its counterpart Contagion, you should never build already. You should never be building it. And especially after this patch, do not build Contagion. It's a dead item. Sorry. Archdruid's Fury. Nice little bump. Don't think it's going to increase the buy rate. Like, if you're going to buy it, you're still going to buy it in the same slot with the same priority. You're not going to build it more because it has 5 more of each protection. Dawnbringer, 15 HP 5, still a dead item in my eyes. It's kind of a fun niche item, but not actually good. Warrior's Axe, 15 to 20 power is fat. That's a 33% increase in the amount of power that it gives. That's a lot. You got an Achilles stabbing you, bro? He's going to be hurting a lot more. This now has the most power on it of any physical starter item. And it already was the best physical starter item to deal damage because the passive on the Warrior's Axe is a really nice heal and does really good damage. And it gives you some mana sustain. So just really trying to push those warriors into the solo lane again. And this Warrior's Axe is definitely going to affect the Joust meta. Let me tell you. You could see a lot more Achilles Warrior's Axe guys popping up. Now on to God Nerfs, we got Opwash. Nerf to his passive. He now only heals 4% of his health instead of 5% when he picks up a corpse. And instead of resetting his 1 and 2 cooldown by 2 seconds when he picks up a corpse, it's now 1 second. So a decent nerf to Opwash. Nothing insanely major. But in conjunction with all the other nerfs that his items got, Opwash could fall off to the wayside pretty hard here. Athena, god that's super highly performing in the game right now, overall, and in Conquest especially. We're not going to really notice this. But definitely going to notice the taunt not scaling down in cooldown, and the ult getting hit, so cooldown's getting slapped around a bit. Not at the 140-second ult cooldown just yet, like we are with Yamoja, but Athena takes a hefty hit, is still very good, and the only question is, will she remain a top pick going into Worlds? She's still going to be a solid pick, but with the cooldown changes, unsure if she'll be a top pick. She still does like all the same stuff she does, or did before, but on a slightly higher cooldown. We'll see what happens with that. The movement speed on her ult is kind of what sells her for me in her current state. That movement speed is so good, dude. Chernabog, another super highly performing character. 10 seconds extra on his ult. 5% reduced movement speed. And damage mitigation. This character is kind of still the same in my eyes after this nerf. Especially because you build 20% cooldown on him through the Oh my lord! Play Joust with the fat raid! Thank you very much, friend. We are in the middle of recording a patch notes video, but thank you very much for the raid. We're just talking about Chernobog, who got a nerf, but I think he's still going to be the same priority as he already is, especially in Conquest. Because this nerf isn't that crazy. The build just really suits him right now. Red Deathbringer, Fail Not are incredibly strong items on him. And he's an incredibly strong character. Thanks for the follow, guys. Ruji? Thank you, thank you. Okay, now moving on to Maman Brigitte. She actually got a sizable nerf here on her too. She's going to deal quite a bit less damage, but it's her 1 that's really dealing the big damage. Her 1 and her passive are applying big damage numbers. So I still find her strongest point to be in the mid game, where it's hard to 100 to 0 her earlier on in that mid game because you don't have a lot of items yet. So harder to punish, but her 1 is hitting you for like 800 damage when she uses it 3 times on you. So yeah, she's just dealing too much damage to you and you're not dealing enough damage back to her. The mid game is definitely her strongest point, and it still is after this. Her late game is still going to be really incredibly strong. She kind of has like an old Loki effect where she like one-shots you, and she will still be able to do that. But this is a sizable nerf to her too, and she'll be a bit less surprising with how fast she kills you later on, because her 2 procs the passive so many times. So you'll be able to react to her a bit easier, to her burst, aegis it properly type of thing. Poseidon, one of those tank mages that's incredibly strong right now. Passive nerf. This is a smaller nerf, but this, to his trident, is a huge nerf. Instead of having a 16-second cooldown on it, scaling down to 12, now 15 all ranks, no scaling. And he loses 30 damage per hit of his 1, which can hit a whole, per hit of his 2, which can hit a whole bunch of times with a lot of attack speed. You could probably get off like, 10 plus autos with this thing. So that's like, considering 10 plus, that's like 300 plus damage he's losing. Base. An insane amount of damage and putting it on a longer cooldown. Like currently, with 40% cooldown with the standard build of the Breastplate and the Pythags and the Shoguns, this dude with Bountiful Bow is using his 2, and then he's having it back up like 1 second after the 2 buff runs out. So this will slow Poseidon down quite a good amount. We'll see exactly how much it slows him down, this in combination with the item changes. But let's see. We will see. Trident is just an incredibly strong ability. The latest thing that happened to it was it got buffed, actually. It gives attack speed to him now. I think it's like 20%. And scaling to 20, something like that. So, it's a little hit. We'll see if it's too much, too little, or just right. Same with Raijin. As we move down the list, he's losing 5 damage per hit on his 1. And he hits that 4 times, does 1 bang, 2 bangs. So minus 20 damage on that. Does he need it? Especially with all these changes to items? We'll find out. Next patch, when we see exactly how strong Raijin feels. But, yeah, that's going to hurt Raijin. It's not going to be anything crazy, but especially early on, you will not be killing people very quickly with this god. All right, Ratatoskr, I was surprised at this change. So, Rat, especially with the 5-nut Acorn, the Acorn Blast just hurts a lot. It takes like half your health, bro, early on. And they nerfed it, but it's more of like a late game nerf than an early game nerf, which was weird to me. Because they nerfed the scaling, which is definitely impacting you more later on, right? 5%. And this is per nut, right? So level 1, it does the exact same thing, basically, because you're not going to have much power, so you're not really going to notice the 5% lack of scaling on your 3 nuts. But, like, man, they really hurt it as it gets to the later ranks. Because you're considering you have 3 nuts, possibly 5 if you've got the 5-nut Acorn, which most people do on Rat. It's either the 5-nut or the protection reduction on Flurry. So, yeah, kind of a surprising way of nerfing him. I understand why they are nerfing him, but I would expect them to nerf the base damage earlier on and maybe have it scaled to like the same amount as it was already. Interesting approach with Rat. I guess they're more worried about the late game damage. In your opinion, Trident and Ring Toss are the best abilities. What do you think is the best non-ultimate ability? That is a tough question for later. Because we are talking about Achilles right now, who is going to get a fat buff here. Remember that Warrior's Axe buff? We're also buffing his 2 to heal him 4 targets maximum at all ranks of this. So you can heal quite a hefty amount with this god. You can heal with his 3 on the first cast, heal his 3 on the second cast, heal with his 1 on the cast of that. So that's 12, or 3 times 4, 12 different heals you could possibly get. And then heck, you could heal with his ult if you wanted to, ult through the wave and get another heal there. So you can get a lot of healing on Achilles. A whole bunch. Scales up real nicely with that. So it's almost like he's got a Glad Shield again. Remember when Glad Shield used to restore your health and mana? Kind of crazy. And Combat Dodge got a massive buff, 2 seconds off at rank 1, scaling down to the same number as it already does. So I think you still level Combat Dodge. You still level him the exact same way. You're just going to feel a bit stronger earlier on as Achilles, who is already an incredibly strong early presence in the Joust scene. And they're trying to make him better in Conquest. But in Joust, you're going to feel this. You're going to feel this hard with Warrior's Axe as well. So Achilles moves up a few rungs here. Could possibly be seeing him get a first pick, first band. Very possible. Bologna. This sucks. The Scourge heals you for nothing. I would really like to see them change this to be like, heals you 1% of your health or something. Or maybe have it scale from like 30 to 50. Because the Scourge, you got to work hard for that heal, man. 3 times is a lot of times. And you're really only healing off of minion waves with this ability. Like, realistically, you want to box them in your 1. So you're not going to get that healed more often than not. You're going to hit the Scourge and then dash in on them so that they're disarmed while you're stacking up your passive on your 1. And you finish them off with your 2 if you have to, but you theoretically don't want to use your 2 because it's just such a long windup. You just use it if you need to. And yeah, this heal just sucks. So like when you're going for it, it's not that good. And yeah, just kind of bad. So I don't think this does anything. But Eagles Rally. I've been playing Bologna a little bit over the past couple weeks here. And I've been starting to level up her ult. It was always like her 3 abilities that were non-ult were always better than her ult. So you always leveled those first. But over the years, Bologna's ult has become better than her other 3 abilities, honestly. It gives massive buff to team. And it gets 90 extra damage when you level it. And if that wasn't enough, it now gets 100 extra damage when you level it. You know what else? What other abilities in this game gain 100 extra damage when you level them? Scylla. Kukulkan ults. Bro, it's insane. So, yeah, level Bologna ult, guys. It's good. We're buffing Tyr. He's going to get 55% extra scaling on his Assault Stance Fearless, which is the one where he goes rah, and hits you twice. So, nice little help for Tyr. And the bigger one is his Fearless is going to scale down and cooldown now. So, get like 2-3 points in his Power Cleave if you need the sustain, and then level the heck out of that Fearless, boys, because that thing is nuts. 13 seconds, very strong. Really trying to push the Warriors back into the solo lane through a very long series of buffs and nerfs. Mulan, God still sucks. We're not even going to read that because we know it's bad. Gilgamesh is a very nice change. He's going to have HP 5 from his 1 at all times now. So I think now you should level his 1 over his 2, the drop kick. The drop kick I was always a big fan of even through all the nerfs. You should have still leveled that. But with this buff to his 1, you should be leveling Gilgamesh because he doesn't have built-in sustain. So you can have some built-in sustain now. And it'll clear minions better, which is a very nice change for Gilgamesh. So I would love to see some Gilgamesh rising up in the ranks. Maybe we'll see him in the jungle or perhaps in the solo lane, but he's never been a popular solo laner for good reason. Will this be enough to bring him there? We'll find out. In Joust, I could definitely see Gilgamesh getting prioritized a bit. Definitely not like a first pick character, but definitely a character to pick. His early pressure and team fight presence, super strong. Loki. 5 extra base damage per hit of his Vanish, so I forget if that hits 5 times or 4 times, but a nice little extra burst. You're only going to really feel this in the early game, I would say. where your damage is more base damage oriented than it is scaling focused. So he'll just kill you a little faster with that Carapace Shard. Robin gets a couple little buffs that, honestly, he's still bad. I'm sorry. Solanus, a nice change to his 3 that always should have been a thing. He now has no diminishing returns on the stun on his 3. I honestly didn't even know that he had a stun on his 3, but apparently he does. And it starts right as he starts pulling you. So that's why I never noticed it. But yeah, that's why you're able to 3 somebody and then instantly ult them before they can react. Makes sense. And now it doesn't suffer from DR, so you'll be able to get a stun on your Sylvanas 3. Fantastic. Should have always been a thing. Geb got the Vulcan ult buff to his 2. And 1 second reduction on his stone shield. I think Geb's about the same character. You're still going to pick him in the same scenarios that you were before, and you're probably not going to pick him, honestly. Not a bad god, though. Apollo, garbage character, still garbage. Medusa, okay character. Decent buff here, and they're trying to make it so you don't have to build Transcendence on her. But she just feels better with an ability-based build, a shred build, because of this. Because of the thing that they buffed right here. That's why she feels better with an ability-based build. Because she's got this thing, which hits really hard, and she's got this thing, which hits really hard. And neither of those things can crit. Or benefit from stacking a lot of attack speed. So that's why Medusa just feels like a better god with Transcendence. Because the auto-attack build, like, it's just not the same as this, you know? Like, maybe you could get away with something like you do on Uller, like with the Transcendence Hydra's Fail Not, so then you can have crit, and then you get, like, Demon Blade Deathbringer. I'll have to test that. But I still think that Transcendence is just the best Medusa build. There's just no way around it. Even with the mana cost being lower. This is a significant amount more damage. You should be leveling Viper Shot over Acid Spray. Even though Acid Spray is better clear, you can definitely go Golden Gooseberries and level the Viper Shot. Have, you know, your Blue Stone, and you'll have pretty good clear. You can even dash through the wave now, right? As Medusa and clear the wave. So that's cool. Kronos, I don't think these changes really do much to him. And Zeus gets 15 extra damage per rank on his ult. But it's already such an inconsistent ability to hit a lot of hits of it that I don't think you're going to prioritize leveling it. You might level the ult now before you level your third non-ult ability. So, like, before you would level, let's say, Zeus is 3, then is 1, then is 2, and then you'd put points in the ult. But now maybe you consider doing the 3 and then the 1 and then the ult and then the 2. Because it does do quite a bit more damage when you level it up. But I don't think it's a really hefty priority to get points in it. So we'll see. And now we get to talk about the part you've all been waiting for. That's all the balance changes. The new character. Placed so properly at the top of the patch notes, although it is discussed at the end of the patch notes, and the patch notes show. Saving the best for last, I suppose. The big whale guy. If you guys haven't seen clips of him yet, of his god reveal, definitely look into that, because some of the stuff I'm going to say here is going to make no sense unless you see him. But basically, he's like a big whale dude, maybe the size of about a Khepri, you know, yay long, and maybe, you know, a little bit longer than Khepri, but pretty long. And his whole thing is he's like a basic attack focused guardian that definitely seems more of a bruiser than a guardian, so more of like a Yorm. He's more of like your Kulu. And he's, yeah, like I said, basic attack focused, but doesn't build, like, rings or anything. Because this passive, as we're going to get into here, scales his protections, or converts his protections into increased basic attack damage. So it takes that protections that you build from items and abilities, and 30% of those protections will be added to your basic attack damage, and his basic attacks are an AoE around him. He doesn't, like, spit basic attack, he doesn't, like, throw something, he doesn't hit you. It's an AoE around him, like a final auto of a Ratatosker attack chain, or, why am I blanking on the other one? There's another one. You know, just a 360 degree circle around you, it hits. So he like pulses on you basically. And so extra protections will make those pulses deal more damage. And if you build attack speed, it'll make it so Atlas 1. Yeah, that's it. Atlas 1. That's what it's like, except much smaller. And building more attack speed on him will make it so that when you use your auto attacks, you won't be slowed down as much. So you're probably not going to build a lot of attack speed items on him, like Demonic Grip and Helkine's Ring and stuff like that. Not only because there are better items to buy, but because attack speed and item passives do not benefit his basic attacks. So you won't be getting like the Demonic Grip Shred. You won't be getting the Telkine's extra damage, I don't believe. But you can get like Gilded Arrow and deal extra damage, like with Old Yorm, which you can still do on Yorm, actually. It's just not meta. But you'll probably be able to build stuff like Shogun's Kasari and War Flag and War Banner and Talisman of Energy and feel good doing that with this. And so that's his passive, explained. The only part we're missing is when enemies apply hard crowd control to you, they're cursed. And that curse we will get into later in this kit of what it does exactly. His first ability, it's just basically a stim. He starts auto attacking in a wider range. So his auto attack radius is kind of like a really small circle around him. Just imagine a Kepri with a really small AoE around him doing autos. And now that increases by 20 units. And when he auto attacks, he gains protections. He moves a little bit quicker when he's doesn't move quicker, but he doesn't suffer as much from the auto attack reduction speed. And per enemy hits, he gains protections, like Shock does. And it lasts for 5 seconds on a 12-second cooldown. So a very powerful ability. This is going to be the ability that you're leveling first, as most of your damage is going to come from those pulses that you do with your basic attacks. Moving on to the second ability. This is a bit of more of a complicated one. This is where that curse that we're talking about comes into effect. If someone hard CCs you, you apply a curse to them. This ability is kind of like a small little cone, like a Hebo one. And it applies a curse, the same curse that the passive applies. And if the enemy is cursed already, then it applies an increased slow. So enemies that are cursed are slowed for 15%, but that slow doubles if they're hit by this like Hebo one. And then also, if the enemy wasn't cursed, they will have the curse applied, which gives you the person affected by the curse will deal % less damage. Really, really good. And if you can get the curse applied to them twice, that % damage reduction will double. Which is insane. Really insane. It doesn't do that much damage. See, very low base number and a nice 30% of your magical power, which is not a lot. So going back to this god being very focused, his damage on the basic attacks. That's why you level the 1. And it's a 10-second cooldown. Oh, and then a big part we forgot about is if you auto attack somebody that has a curse on them, it'll reduce the cooldown of your 2 ability, the Hebo one, by 1 second if it's a god, and by 0.1 second when it's a minion. Well, I guess it's not, yeah. They don't need to have the curse applied to them to get that. It's just your basic attacks in general, when this ability is on cooldown. Okay. Makes more sense. I confused myself a bit there. But this ability is very strong, and at max rank, you can reduce somebody's damage by up to 20%, and slow them for 30%. On a low cooldown ability, at base, this is no cooldown reduction, that will get a lower cooldown the more you hit them. So already this god's looking really good without having to build any cooldown at all. But he's basic attack focused with low cooldowns. He's almost like a hunter, but a guardian, but tanky with damage reduction and very, very much in your face melee range, trying to bust things up, walking horrific, walking Runeforge type of deal. His third ability is a dash. It's just a very simple ability. The most simple out of all of the 3 so far, honestly. He just dashes straight at you. It's like a Herc push. Stuns you for a small duration, 14-second cooldown, immune to knockback. Does not have CC immunity thus far, and he won't in the rest of the kit. So punishable that way. If you can like Ares chain him or something. But very simple, just dash. That's all he does. So when you clear a wave, you're either gonna try and group them up by hitting somebody with your Hebo 2 or your Hebo 1, the Sonic Wave, or you're gonna hit them with your Twisting Dive to group the minions together. And then the big one is Ultimate. Very cool ability. Lasts for 5 seconds. What's up, Sun Prodigy? I do not want to do a 3v3 tourney at 6. I'm a bit busy, and I'm actually about to get off here. But thanks for asking. So, back to the ultimate. Bake Kujira begins to sing for the next 5 seconds, gaining bonus basic attack damage, and increasing his basic attack range to 20. So this stacks with his 1. That increases your basic attack radius by 20. I believe it stacks. So you have a 40 unit basic attack radius. I do believe. And he also gains a time dilation effect like an Olarun ult. And that's within a 20 to 50 unit radius from him. Olarun ult is a 40-second or a 40% time dilation on his opponents. So if you just imagine yourself walking through an Olarun ult, you move super slow, right? This ability, if you're within 20 to 50 units away from the guy with this ability active, and you'll be able to see it. It's a very, very large, like it looks like a sound barrier almost. You will move 10% time dilation, and that'll stack up to 40%. So Olarun's 40, you start at 10, and that 10 goes up by another 10 for every 0.25 seconds you stay inside that 20 to 50 unit range. So if you stay inside it for 1 second, you'll be moving at Olarun ult speed. And if you get out of that field, then the time dilation, instead of instantly going away, will degrade over time. It doesn't specify how quickly that degrades. It just says leaving the time dilation area will cause the stacks of time dilation to decay over time. You would think it would just be the same as the way it stacks, but who knows? We are talking about high res here. And then the only thing we need to talk about is the 0 to 20 unit radius that you don't get affected by the time dilation. So if you're like right next to him, it's like an Eye of the Storm thing. You're not affected by the time dilation. But you do take increased damage. Scaling from 5% to 15% extra damage. So it eventually it goes from a mini Runeforged to a full-on Runeforged. So he's got 15% damage increase, and he's got 20% damage reduction on you with his second ability. So this guy, he literally is a walking Runeforged when he ults and gets all these things on you. So a super, super strong ability. It also increases how much damage his basic attacks deal. And the cooldown will go down as you level it. So super strong ult makes sense. It's a longer cooldown, scales down over time. So he's got a lot of things going for him. He's got the walking Runeforged, kind of like a walking Horrific as well, because he's reducing your damage and slowing you down. And he's got very auto attack based on the entire kit. So he's very melee range, because those auto attacks are just like a small radius around him that expands with some of his abilities, right? And big to note that he has no CC immunity. The only thing he's got is knockback immunity on his dash. So very pronounced strengths and very pronounced weaknesses. Just from a first look, it seems like his numbers are a bit high. And perhaps he does a bit too much. But it won't be until we get to test him that we'll really see exactly how strong he is / can be. Characters that have walls will be very good against him. Like Kabrakan will be nice against him. Ymir could be good. Characters that can lock down his mobility and make him not be able to dash will be very good against him, like Ares. But at the same time, those characters do have to be a little bit careful around him, because if they get caught in this Yokai's Lament ability and are starting to take 15% extra damage, you could get punished pretty hard for going up an Ares chain in this guy. And if you're trying to get away, you're going to be moving quite slow. So he's got a lot of good tools for himself that are very positive and will make him very tough to kill. We'll have to see exactly how it plays out as far as leveling order goes, you'll definitely prioritize leveling this ultimate because it's such a strong effect, and mainly for these two things right here you want. These two things that scale up. The bonus basic attack damage, because your whole character, like all of your damage is coming from that. And so being able to scale up your basic attack damage by a percentage is invaluable. And then, of course, if people are close to you, if you're scaling up a damage increase is one of the strongest things you can get in Smite. Damage increase and damage decrease are two, like percentage increases and decreases are two of the biggest things to get on your team in Smite. When it's not a hard CC, that's the next thing you want. So definitely level this guy up. And then you're going to level up your 1, because that's the basic attack thing that gives you protections. And actually, I guess you don't have to level it. I was going to say it was going to increase your basic attack damage, but it actually doesn't increase your basic attack damage. It's just building prots that increases your basic attack damage. Your prots and your ult. So, honestly, you could level his 1 or his 2. Always put points in the ult, but I'm gonna have to see whether I like using his 2 or his 1 more. I'm thinking that maybe I will level the 2, because you can get cooldown refund on the 2 for hitting opponents. So you can get a lot of uses out of that ability in a much shorter time. Like, I could use Sonic Wave 2, maybe even 3 times before I can use Rough Waters a second time. So Sonic Wave might be it. However, this is kind of like a Cabrakan 2 effect, where you can get passive protections, basically. And you can get up to 60 of each protection at max rank on this guy. That is a whole bunch. Reducing somebody's damage by 20% or by 10% doesn't mean that much when you don't have much survivability to go alongside it. But when you get 20% or 12, even like 12%, the lower number of damage reduction, and you have 60 extra prots, they're going to hit you much less. So this is definitely something that you're going to have to feel out on your own, and I'm going to have to feel out as well, whether you like the 1 or the 2 more. The 2 is definitely, it's more raw damage, but the 1 is more survivability. So maybe if you're like solo frontlining, you'll level Rough Waters first. And then if you're like trying to be like more of a warrior, which you probably will with this character, you'll get Sonic Wave first. So yeah, I think I sold myself. You level 4, then 2, then 1, then 3. Possibly you do a little bit of point trading. Maybe you do like 3 points in your 2 and then max out your 1, or 3 points in your 2, max, or get 3 points in your 1 and then finish maxing out your 2 and do something freaky like that. But definitely max out your ult first, and then probably 2, and then maybe put points in your 1 as soon as it feels right, which we'll only be able to figure out through testing. Gonna be fantastic. God looks really fun. Level the dash last. Overall, the patch seems pretty good. We're gonna have to see the exact ramifications of it when it drops on Tuesday, December 12th, I believe is what we said. And yeah, a lot of cool things happening. I think the most notable ones are New God, a lot of mage tanky items nerfed, Pestilence randomly buffed, Warrior's Axe buffed big, and anything else? Achilles. I think the last thing is the Warriors that got big buffs. Achilles mainly. Bologna got like a cool change, but not bigger than Achilles. Tears change is pretty big, but not bigger than Achilles. Gilgamesh, same. And so yeah, just a lot of Warriors got a lot of good buffs. A lot of the mages got kind of slapped around, and the New God. I think the main one for me is the New God. I think that's the coolest thing for me. Let me know in the comments what you guys think is the coolest thing for you. If you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like on it, and subscribe to the channel for more content. And I will see you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.